This is a very short video on the water cycle. Water is an essential component to the survival of just about any organism. We, for example, are composed of 60% water. Our brains are composed of 70% water, and our lungs are composed of about 80% water. We can go a long time without food, but we can only go at max about a week without water. Chances are, if we didn't have water for about 3 or 4 days, we would die. The main source of water in the world is the oceans and the lakes that cover the Earth's surface. But when we look at the world, we know it's 70% covered by water. We may think that we have a lot of access to it. We do, but it's just not fresh. Fresh water only contains about 2% of the world's water, and a large portion of that consists in the Great Lakes. Water is found in limited amount around the world. Because of that, it needs to be recycled, and it is. Water in lakes and streams starts, it evaporates up into the air, it eventually condenses in clouds into fog, it then precipitates down and it will accumulate if it's snow. If it melts, or if it's already water, it will turn into surface runoff and eventually will pool down into streams and rivers and ponds and lakes. And then eventually those lakes will pool into larger bodies of water and eventually end up back into the lake. It will also percolate, go through the ground, be filtered and below, and eventually pick up minerals and other things, but it will go into the ground and eventually will go into underground streams and eventually end up back into lakes and oceans as well. Here's some of the important processes in the water cycle. First, it's evaporation. When the temperature of water rises, it turns from a liquid to a gas. Then, we also have a similar thing that's happening in plants. If you've ever taken a plant and you cover it up with a plastic bag, you'll know eventually that there will be water droplets inside of that bag. That's because the plants are giving off water through a process known as transpiration. The process of giving, which is the process of water vapor given off through the stomata, or little holes on the bottom of leaves. Eventually that water will go up into the atmosphere, and as it gets colder, as it gets higher, that water vapor turns into liquid clouds due to the decrease in temperature. It will then precipitate down to Earth as a bunch of different forms that you already know: snow, rain, and hail. When that water hits the ground, it can form into groundwater from surface or surface runoff, and that is when water drains through the porous holes of rock and gravel in the ground, filtering and cleaning the water. This is important because groundwater is drinkable because it goes through this filtration process. Respiration is also something that occurs, cellular respiration. We know what that is already. We know that our bodies naturally give off water vapor when you break glucose down. Photosynthesis also takes water vapor out of the air. In the process, it takes that water vapor and it takes carbon dioxide and turns it into carbohydrates. Those 6 are the most important processes that I expect you to know for the water cycle. That's it for today. Thanks.